Hello and welcome. Fáilte roimh mo cairde go léir. Welcome, all my friends. Ar fud an domhain around the world to live Irish myths with myself, Anthony Murphy of Mythical Ireland. This is episode 30. Can you believe? We've been doing this for 30 consecutive days, and it began on the 12th of March as a means on the day that the first restrictions were announced in Ireland in relation to COVID-19 coronavirus, as a means of distracting us and assuaging the anxiety a little bit. And I began telling stories. And after a number of days, a nice community of people gathered around, and we've become what we call a tua, or a tribe, or a Margaret Ring wanted Coda involved in tonight's episode. I guess he's going to be involved whether we like it or not. And yeah, it's grown into a lovely sort of hour, or usually a little bit more than an hour. Last night's episode ran over an hour and a half. But anyway, you're all very welcome. Tá Céad Míle Fáilte. 100,000 welcomes to you all. And it's been lovely. Your support and the interaction and the comments and the questions and your reaching out to each other in the comments has been lovely. It's been fantastic. We're on a slightly different position tonight. We're on YouTube, and feel free on YouTube and on Facebook to make comments and to ask questions. Tonight we're going to deal in what I think will be episode 1 of probably 2 or 3 episodes with animals and other creatures in Celtic mythology. And the reason I say Celtic mythology, and I've explained before, as you know, I'm not a big fan of using that word, is that this is tonight's episode deals with mythology from other areas, other close areas, such as Wales, etc., which would be considered part of the Celtic nations, which is why I didn't want to just call it Irish mythology. And as usual, before we start, we'll have to say thanks to a few people. If you saw the graphic for today's episode, a number of images on that of different creatures. There was an image of a boar, which was from Ekachi Yawong, an image of a bull from Mabel Amber, an image of a dragon from Kazun, Kazun, and an image of a horse by Wilgard Kaus. And they're all on Pixabay. And the central image of the stag was actually an image I took in Dublin's Phoenix Park a couple of years ago. Tonight's topic was suggested by Desiree Riley. Thank you, Desiree, for your suggestion, and lovely to give you a mention. As usual, I want to say also thank you very much to all the Mythical Ireland patrons over at patreon.com, patreon.com/Mythical Ireland, whose support helps to make this live stream happen, and indeed many other aspects of the Mythical Ireland work. Thank you indeed for your support. And if you'd like to become a patron, head on over there and check it out and see if there's a level of patronage that you'd like, and you get rewards for same. Anyway, better catch up with the comments on YouTube. Michael Sheehan, very nice to see you storytelling. And Michael, it's a great pleasure to see you on Live Irish Myths. I hope you're keeping safe and well. And it's lovely to see. I think that's your first time on here. So hopefully you'll enjoy yourself. Caimrays says hello from Wales, and I apologize if I'm butchering the pronunciation of your name. Philip Blair says aloha from Washington State. You're very welcome along, Philip. Tá fáilte roimh mo cairde, and you will probably find you are not the only Washington State viewer, as we will find out when we go through the list. Brido, Maxine Adair Defty says, good evening, Anthony. And Trononawa, Maxine. Alan Bryett, hello there, Mr. Amazing Anthony. Hello, Alan. Thanks for coming in. David McNally says, hi, man. Hello, David. Hi, man. I like what you did there. Henry Paddy Shearman has joined us. Hello, Henry. Nice to see you again. Margaret Ring, good evening, everyone. Hi, Margaret. Lovely to see you. Michael Naylor. Hello, Anthony. Greetings from Princeton. You make my day with your stories. Glad to have some folks in from Princeton, which is a beautiful part of the world, and the university grounds in particular. Oh, fabulous. And myself and my wife stayed in Princeton in November last, and we very much look forward to the opportunity perhaps to go back in the future. If you happen to see Professor Paul Muldoon, do tell him I said hello. Judy McQueen says hello. Hi, Judy. Jack Durkin says hi, everyone. Eva Anderson is saying hello from Gothenburg. Hi, Eva. And Mark Dickey is in Minnesota. You're very welcome, Mark. Ihawa. Paul Gowron says, evening, everyone. Hi, Paul. How are you? Liam Smith. Good evening, Anthony and all. Thumbs up. And the same back to you, Liam. Declan Barron says, good evening. Hi, Declan. Margaret Ring says, hi, Coda. Welcome. I think it was feeding time. And he was just letting Amy know that the food wasn't being presented to him quick enough. Tracy O'Connor is watching. Hello, Tracy. Ihawa. I should say Trononawa, because it's bright and it doesn't feel like nighttime when it's still bright. Nancy Nichols, yay, is that time again. Thank you. Blessings from Bluebird Fish Camp Restaurant, Orange, Texas. Nancy, it's lovely to see you. Barbara Barney says, hi, Anthony. Hello, Barbara. Paji McCavoil. Apologies if I'm not pronouncing your surname properly. Bergi Bua Motuha and Tafalche Roat Apoji. Sorka K is saying hello. Desiree Riley, I'm so excited for tonight's episode and so you should be for suggesting it in the first place. Tracy says, hi, all. Coda will be in his element given the subject matter tonight. Yes, perhaps he's letting us know on behalf of the animal kingdom that they're all excited. Yvette Tillema, hello Yvette, lovely to have you back again. Hi everyone. Mariana Dunn says hello from Virginia in the USA. Lovely to see you again, Mariana. John McGovern is watching. Hello John, one of the locals here in Drogheda in Glannabonia. Hope you're well, John, and keeping safe. Kerem Gogus is watching. Great to have you along as always, Kerem from Turkey, one of my longtime friends. Joan Rankin is saying hello from Cape Breton. Hello Joan. And Katrina says, hey, Tá Misha in Virginia fresh and Cowell to Mariana. So Katrina is also in Virginia. Adam McCormick, hello from Belfast. Hello, Adam. Leslie Ann Burgess is in Vancouver. Hi, Leslie Ann. You're very welcome along. Daniel Welch, hello. Sorry, folks. Sorry, having a few busy nights and work at the moment. Can't wait to catch up tomorrow. Keep safe all. Don't worry, Daniel. Completely understand, and that's absolutely fine. And it's great that you can catch up on the video afterwards. Jeanette Gaston Huben is in Princeton. Hello, Jeanette. Lovely to see you. Have you yourself and Mike are on separate devices now? Is that it? It's great to see you. Anyway, say hello to all our friends in Princeton for us. Jennifer Foley says hello all. Hi, Jennifer. Kelly Minich is watching. Hello, Kelly. Lovely to see you again. Here from Omeath in Cundaloo in the Wee County here in Ireland. Heidi Alperez is saying hello from San Francisco. Don't forget to wear flowers in your hair. Hello, Heidi. James Perry is in County Down. Hello, James. Good evening to you. Aoife Milunchi is calling in some friends. Della Ratcliffe is in Vancouver. Another one from Vancouver. Lovely to see you. Elaine Duff Kopetsky is in Quesnel in British Columbia in Canada. Great to see you. Mick Garatowski is watching. Hello, Mick. Long time no see. Hope you're keeping well. I hope you're healthy and safe. Dan Holden says howdy. Howdy to you, Dan. Tua de Dannon. Marcia Down says hello from New Hampshire, USA, but my heart belongs to Ireland. Wonderful. Lovely to see you, Marcia. Patricia McAteer. Hi from a very misty and dull Omeath tonight. Yes, it got progressively duller this evening as the evening went on. There are some showers out west and the odd rattle of thunder as well. Hopefully we won't get those. Aileen McAnally says, hi, Anthony. Great to see you. Brilliant that we've have such a great academic. Keep up our early Irish and Celtic traditions going. Keep our early. Yes, I'm not actually an academic, but sure, look, you know, maybe someday I'll actually get a degree in something, you know. Anyway, thanks a million. Adam McCormick is also in Belfast. Hello, Adam. Mandy McCurl is on the Isle of Mull, looking west towards Staffa. Good evening to you, Mandy. Tá fáilte rát an nocht. Helen Guinan is in the house. I have to genuflect. Hi, Helen. How are you? Dave Russell. Gorgeous evening. Working on my camper van and listening to yourself. Couldn't do it without you, mate. Keep it up. Thanks, Dave. Good to see you. Janet Kerrigan is in Long Valley. Hello, Janet. Fergus O'Brien is in Atlanta, Georgia. Fergus, you're very welcome. Seth Tigarian is in Florida. Wow, we have a lot of states represented tonight. Great to see you all. Hello, Seth. June Palmer is in Sturgeon Lake, Alberta. Hello, June, another viewer from Alberta. Doris Schondorfer, service from Vienna to all. Hello, Doris. Rowan Grove. Anthony, you jumped right over my greeting. Kidding, it's all right. And Rowan is in Oregon, isn't it? Very good to see you again. Vicky Wallace Southall, so much love on this page. Kathy Millett, Chicago, Irish watching. The Windy City. Great to see you, Kathy. Snapper Earl, hi from New York's Hudson Valley. It snowed this morning. Wow, it certainly didn't snow here. So you can keep it. And Ali Cat says hello from Oregon. Oh, man. We are going to get round to telling some stories eventually. Over on YouTube, Philip Blair says, great to be here from Washington State. Erica Rivertree, Giariv, is Manny Giariv, August Tussa, Fane, Erica, God bless all here. Michael Sheehan, greetings from Tampa, Florida. Thank you, Michael. I didn't realize exactly what part of the world you're in. Helene McCreevy says, hello again from California. You're very welcome along. Sarah Adair is saying hi from County Down. Hello, Sarah. By the beard of Ymir says hello from Ottawa in Canada. Am I pronouncing that right? That's the giant in Norse myth who was dismembered, if I'm not mistaken. Very, very nice to see you, whatever your real name is. Chronog Media, I did my dissertation on animals in Gaelic Ireland. Love this topic. Looking forward to the video. Well, you're very welcome along, and hopefully I'll be learning something, because I know in all these Mythflix broadcasts, I've been learning something. It's been a learning experience for me too. Rowan Grove is in Colorado. Sorry, not in Oregon. Colorado. Thank you, Rowan, for correcting me. Kylie Gibson is in Australia. Good day. Good day to you also, Kylie. And you're very, very welcome along this evening. Hi from the Woods family in Monaster Boyce. Our son, Peter Mitchell, is delighted to hear about the animals tonight. Well, yes, we'll explore it, and there's maybe going to be another episode to follow up. Helene McCreevy, love to hear more about Cian. I know he turned into a pig in one story. Yes, absolutely, the Sons of Turin. And we did actually cover that story in, I believe it was episode 2. Which I'll just very briefly check. I'm pretty sure it was episode 2. Yeah. So if you want to look back on any of the previous episodes, I'm going to enter that in. Sorry, I'll just turn off the sound on those speakers. I'll just enter that as a comment immediately beneath here, so you can click on that link. Yes. What, Coda? I mean, we're live here. Can you not read the signs? What do you mean you didn't get enough to eat? What do you mean you didn't get a long enough walk? What? Live TV, isn't it great? And also on YouTube. So that's a link to the Mythical Ireland blog, where you can see all the previous episodes in one place. One Love XPC says, love from San Diego, California. Wow, you're very welcome along. Heard a Shot says, hello again, Anthony. My daily spoon of mythical medicine. Thank you so much. Slane says, a good evening all, and a very good evening to Balya Shlanya Anocht. Marcia Monteiro is in Rio de Janeiro in Brazil. Hello, Marcia. You'll have to forgive the dog. He's rather excitable. He's only 10 months old. He's not quite 10 months old. Tricia McGarrity says, hello from Washington. I presume that's DC rather than Washington State. Tricia Tofalcha Roat this evening. You're very, very welcome. G. from the Netherlands says, Pamela Walters. Brilliant stuff. Adam McCormick, 3 degrees, but you want more. Susan Scott says hi from Connecticut. Hello, Susan. And Erin Durrett, Vashon Island near Seattle in Washington State. Hello again from the sunny Pacific Northwest. Glorious April here so far, and here. I think the mention of the pigs upset him. He's probably thinking about the pork, Margaret. Yeah. What about Brasilia? Absolutely. Isn't it fantastic? Yes, indeed. So I think we'll start telling stories now, will we? Yeah, I think we're all caught up, thankfully. Oh, Carol Barrett says, Shan Valya Galyev. Good evening to you, Carol, from Shan Valya Drechadaha. And tonight I am reading from Celtic Mythology by J.A. MacCulloch, specifically the chapter called Mythical Animals and Other Beings. Okay, so everything okay? Yeah, all good, all good, all good, all good. Andrew Vovi Days says, hello from Andrew in Veracruz in Mexico. Hello, Andrew. We have a truly international audience this evening. We have viewers all over Ireland and Britain and Europe. We have viewers in Australia, and we have viewers all over the USA, and we have viewers in Central and South America. Fantastic. Hope you all really enjoy yourself. Molly Michelle Kopeski is saying hello from Minnesota. I'm looking forward to this episode. Well, hopefully we can whet your appetite for some Irish and Celtic mythology. Deep breath, 15 minutes in, and now we can start proper. Sorry, Melissa Glassman says hello from Connecticut. Hello, Melissa. And Brona Murray says hi from Belfast. Hello, Brona. You're just in time for the start. Philip Blair is claiming that our Washington is prettier. I'm not getting into a row between Washington, D.C. and Washington State. The Celts worshipped animals or their anthropomorphic representations. The horse, swine, stag, bull, serpent, bear, and various birds. Now, immediately I spot an omission, and that, of course, is the salmon. But we did briefly delve into the salmon of knowledge myth, and it's something to which we will return because we'll be talking about the sacred wells in Irish mythology. So we'll definitely be talking about the salmon again. Richard Price is in Tucson, Arizona. Good evening to you, Richard. Henry, Paddy Sherman, you're such a charming man, Anthony. It is a pleasure. Well, I'm glad you think so. And sure, look, it's lovely to have you all along. Brilliant stuff. And yes, just to say, don't be afraid to share and to invite friends. There was a horse goddess, Epona, a horse god, Rudiobus, a mule god, Mullo, a swine god, Moccus, and bear goddess called Artio and Andarta. Dedications to or images of these occurring in France and Britain. I was going to say none of those are Irish deities. Personal names meaning son of the bear or of the dog, etc., suggest myths of animal descent lost to us, though they find a partial illustration in stories like that of Oisin, son of a woman, transformed to a fawn. And we dealt with that, didn't we? We had a retelling of Oisin in Tír na nÓg, and I'll just bring that up for you now. That was episode number 11. So if you want to go back, and if you haven't heard that episode, I think his wife's name was Sive, wasn't it? His two hounds, Bran and Scoling, another two creatures, met the fawn when they were out hunting. And instead of attacking the animal, they actually played with it, and they brought it back to his dun or his fortress, and the fawn transformed into a woman, and they married, and all the rest. And isn't it lovely? We have seen that gods and magicians assume animal forms or force these upon others, and other stories to the belief that domesticated animals came from the gods' land. From these, we turn to tales in which certain animals have a mythic aspect, perhaps connected with a cult of them. A divine bull or swine might readily be regarded as enormously large or strong, or possessed of magic power, or otherwise distinguished. And these are aspects under which such animals appear in the stories now to be considered. Now, just bear in mind, folks, that this is not a comprehensive list of Irish myths pertaining to mythology. If you have it, when we finish reading, if you remember one or you want to hear more about one that isn't in this, please do let us know. Tracy wants to know, do you think the animals refer to the constellations? Absolutely, in some cases. I think we discussed that in either Oisin or I think it was the High Man episode 12, about how the great dogs of Oisin might have related to, Finn McCool's dogs might have related to Canis Major and Canis Minor following Orion across the sky. Pat Rowan is watching. Hello, Pat. A very good evening to yet another. I told you there's a few people watching from Washington State. Pat is in Port Townsend in Washington State. You're very welcome along, Pat. Helen says, hello, everyone. Hello to you, Helen. I hope you're keeping safe and well in the middle of all this, by the way. Brasilia. Adam raises a point. Adam, I'm not sure if you're making a suggestion for an episode. Sorry, I know we've only read a paragraph. But there will be an episode. A fantastic suggestion would be to have an episode on the mysterious island of High Brazil. I'm going to put your name on that suggestion. Adam McCormick. We will talk about that. There's lots to be said about the mysterious island of High Brazil. Sorry, I'm even getting carried away here now. In the Irish tale of MacDaho's pig or MacDaho's boar, Scale Mucky MacDaho, MacDaho, king of Leinster, had a dog famed throughout the land. It could run around Leinster in a day and was coveted both by Aileel and Maeve of Connacht and by Crohor of Ulster, Conor McNessa. They're all in the Toynbo Cuillinge. But MacDaho promised it to both and invited the monarchs and their retinues to a feast, hoping that he would escape in the quarrel which would certainly arise between them. The chief dish was a boar reared by MacDaho's grandson, Lena, who, though buried in a trench which the boar rooted up over him, succeeded in killing the animal with a sword. For 7 years, the boar had been nurtured on the flesh of 50 cows. 60 oxen were required to drag its carcass, and its tail was a load for 60 men. Yet Conall Cernach sucked it entire into his mouth. The story tells nothing more of this remarkable animal, but it may commemorate an old ritual feast upon an animal regarded as divine and endowed with mythic qualities. And of course, we have already mentioned in previous episodes the importance of the pig in Neolithic feasts, that a substantial amount of pig bones, in the limited excavations that have taken place in the vicinity of Newgrange, a substantial amount of the bones that were found belonged to pigs, leading archaeologists to think that a substantial amount of feasting took place there, pig meat being associated, pork being associated with feasting. Fascinating stuff. And also, I have to briefly throw in the mention of feasting at Durrington Walls near Stonehenge in England, where bones from animals were found upon investigation to have come from all four corners of Britain, suggesting again that not only was feasting taking place, but that people were coming to these sites from long distances, bringing their animals on the hoof to be slaughtered at the site as part of the festivities and the feasting. The Mirabilia added to Nennius's history speak of the Porcus Troit, or I can't pronounce the Welsh, TWRCH, TRWYTH, hunted by Arthur, an episode related in the tale of Culvich and Olwen. This creature, which was a transformed knight, slaughtered many of the hunters before it was overcome, and 3 desirable possessions taken from between its ears. The Porcus Troit resembles the wild boar of Gulbun, a transformed child hunted by Diarmid when the Féin had fled before it, or the Fianna. And tradition tells of its great size, 16 feet long. Now, the pursuit of Diarmid and Grania is a story that's on the list for future. Video has been paused. I apologize for that brief interruption. The story of Diarmid, Diarmid and Grania, we will tell in at least, it'll probably take 2 or 3 episodes to tell that, but that story is coming. I forgot to also mention, in relation to the pigs, Cian, the father of Lou, I think we did tell that story. Again, that's from Sons of the Fate of the Sons of Tyrone. and he transformed himself into a pig, and they transformed themselves into hunting dogs, or at least Brian transformed his brothers Yuchar and Yucharba into 2 hunting dogs to hunt him out from among the herd of pigs. Fionn himself chased a huge boar, which terrified everyone until it was slain by his grandson Oscar. It was blue-black with rough bristles and no ears or tail. Its teeth protruded horribly, and each flake of foam from its mouth resembled the foam of a mighty waterfall. A close analogy to Arthur's hunt occurs in the story of the Dinshemachus concerning a pig which wasted the land. Manannán and Maud's hounds pursued it when it sprang into a lake where it maimed or drowned the following hounds, and then it crossed to Muck Inish, or Pig Island, where it slew Maud with its tusk. I'm just catching up on a couple of the comments. Katrina says, King Arthur fights boars in Culloch and Olwen that had bristles of gold and silver. Wow. Andrew says, stories from the Mabinogi. Yes. Catherine Wall McManus, hi Anthony and Tua. Sorry I'm late. No problem, Catherine. Lovely to have you along. Don't forget, you can watch the beginning anyway on video afterwards. Pigs turn up as remarkable or otherworldly creatures in quite a lot of mythologies. Yes, they do. And Joseph Campbell had a very interesting description of the tusks representing the crescents of the last and first phases of the moon, the waxing crescent, and the pig or the boar representing the dark phase or the invisible phase of the moon, and then the waxing crescent. Macy Damon says, good evening. Hello, Macy. Lovely to see you. You're very welcome along this evening. Did Fionn step on a boar's bristle and die after breaking the geis against hunting boars? We will find out, Katrina, because we have to go back to Fionn and the Fianna. Brona Murray, anything on the wolf in Ireland, the taboo nature of it. Not sure if there is in this, but that's something we can definitely come back to. The dog is being very, very noisy. Alex says, hi Anthony from North County Dublin. Alex McAllister. Hello Alex, you're very welcome along. Another hunting of magic swine concerns animals from the cave of Crochan, which is elsewhere associated with divinities, and of course that's at Rathcroghan in the modern day County Roscommon. Nothing grew where they went, and they destroyed corn and milk. No one could count them accurately, and when shot at, they disappeared. Maeve and Aileel hunted them, and when one of them leaped into Maeve's chariot, she seized its leg, but the skin broke, and the pig left it in her hand. After that, no one knew whither they went, although a variant version says that now they were counted. From this cave came other destructive creatures, a great 3-headed bird which wasted Erin till Amergin killed it, and red birds which withered everything with their breath until the Ulstermen slew them. It is strange why such animals should be associated with this divine cave, but probably the tradition dates from the time when it was regarded as Ireland's gate of hell, so that any evil spirit might inhabit it. In these stories of divinities or heroes hunting fabulous swine, it is possible that the animals represent some hurtful power, dangerous to vegetation, for the swine is apt to be regarded in a sinister light and might well be the embodiment of demoniac beings. Tanya Noble says, sorry, I'm late. I was making bread. Well, come on and share it round. Sit down by the fire now and toast it. I hope it's nice. Kristen Taggart says, hi from California. Got here late, but enjoying the reading. Give your dog some love for me. Certainly will, Kristen. No problem at all. Coda wants to be part of the animal episode. It's only fitting he adds sound effects today. Well, I have to be honest. The difficulty here is, okay, now that we're speaking on sort of honest terms with each other, the difficulty here is Saskia, who is the other dog. She is in heat at the moment. And for the past few days, Coda has been absolutely going berserk after her. We're keeping them separated by a number of doorways. He tried to jump on her yesterday and he actually hurt her. So we're trying to keep them apart as much as possible. So that's why he's going mad. He's going mad because even though he's only a young fella, yeah, you know yourself. Do I have to fill in the blanks? No, I don't. On the other hand, the animal sacrificed to a god, or of which the god is an anthropomorphic aspect, is sometimes regarded as his enemy, slain by him. Whether this conception lurks behind these tales is uncertain, as also is the question whether the magic immortal swine, the food of the gods, were originally animals sacrificed to them. And it's very interesting that should be mentioned at this juncture, because we were talking about the preponderance of pig bones at Newgrange. And Newgrange is associated with the chief of the deities, Dagda, on Dagda, who built the monument and who was its first owner. What did he keep inside Newgrange? According to the mythical traditions, he kept 2 pigs, one roasting on a spit and one fattened for the slaughter. And they were always in the same condition. No matter how much was eaten, those pigs were still there every day. Fascinating stuff. So perhaps an aspect of the deposition of pig bones into the pits close to Newgrange is that some of them were being sacrificed to the Dagda or other divinities associated with Shion Vru, with Newgrange. Divine swine appear in a Fionn tale. The Féin or the Fianna were at a banquet given by Angus when the deity said that the best of Fionn's hounds could not kill one of his pigs, but rather his great pig would kill them. Fionn, on the contrary, maintained that his hounds, Bran and Skiolan, could do so. A year after, 101 pigs appeared, one of them coal black, and each tall as a deer, but the Fianna and their dogs killed them all, Bran slaying the black one, whereupon Angus complained that they had caused the death of his sons and many of the Tuatha De Danann, for they were in the form of the swine. Now, I'm not sure whether it mentions this, but I will mention this at this point, that when the Milesians were coming to Ireland in Lower Gawala in the Book of Invasions from the Book of Leinster, am I right? I'm just making sure that I'm right. Somebody will correct me if I'm not. That the De Dananns disguised the hillsides as the backs of swine. They made the landscape look like a herd of pigs. I think that's in Lower Gawala, but we will be doing several episodes on the Book of Invasion, so we'll find out for sure. A quarrel ensued, and Fionn prepared to attack Angus's brew, the aforementioned Newgrange, because after Angus took over it from his father, the Dagda, it became known as Sheed Machon Og, the she or the otherworld mound of the young son. When the god made peace. In other instance, a fairy as a wild boar eluded the Fianna, but Fionn offered the choice of the women to its slayer, and by the help of a familiar spirit in love with him, Coilche got the diabolical beast killed. Fionn covered the women's heads lest Coilche should take his wife, but his ruse was unsuccessful. In still another instance, Durbran, Angus's first love, had 6 foster children, but their mother changed them into swine, and Angus gave charge of them to Buchet, whose wife desired the flesh of one of them. Pardon me for a moment. Usual itchy nose off camera. My sincere apologies. 100 heroes and as many hounds prepared to hunt them when they fled to Angus for help, only to find that he could not give it until they shook the tree of Targa and ate the salmon of Inver Ual. Interesting. Not for a year were they able to do this, but now Maeve hunted them, and all were slain save one. Other huntings of these swine, less fortunate for the hunter, are also mentioned. And in one passage, Durbran's swine are said to have been fashioned by magic. What is the swine or pig in Irish? Muck. M-U-C, Margaret, is the Irish for pig. There may be other words. Katrina on Cree-Och will help us if there are other words for pigs, but muck is the one I'm familiar with. Pardon me. Scratching my nose. Terribly sorry. Both in Irish and in Welsh story, pigs are associated with the god's land and are brought thence by heroes or by the gods. The Tuatha De Danann are said to have first introduced swine into Ireland or Munster. The mythic bulls of the Táin Bó Cúailnge were reincarnations of divinities, whence enormous strength was theirs, and the brown bull was of vast size. He carried 150 children, until one day he threw them off and killed all but 50. 100 warriors were protected by his shadow from the heat or by his shelter from the cold. His melodious evening lowing was such as anyone would desire to hear, and no eldritch thing dared approach him. He covered 50 heifers daily, and each next morning had a calf. Well, that's quite a miracle, isn't it? 2 gifts given to Conn by a princess who was with the god Lu were a boar's rib and that of an ox, 24 feet long, forming an arch 8 feet high, but nothing further is told of the animals which owned these huge bones. Cattle were a valued possession of the god's land and, like swine, were brought thence by heroes. Man easily concluded that animals useful to him were also useful to the gods, but he regarded these as magical. The divine mother of Freach gave him cows from the Sidhe. Fligus or Fleas, one of the tribe of the good folk, was wife of Ailill the Fair and had a cow which supplied milk to 300 men at one night's milking, while during the Táin, another account speaks of Fleas having several cows which fed Ailill's army every 7th day. Fleas loved Fergus and urged him to carry her off with her cow, a proof of its value, which is also seen in tales of the capture of cows, along with some desirable woman, divine or human. And of course, not to forget that cattle raiding becomes a big, significant aspect of Irish mythology. And not surprising, because the people who built the monuments, the Stone Age monuments of the Boyne Valley and other parts of Ireland, like Sligo and Lough Crew, were the ones who had introduced agriculture, animal husbandry, and crop tillage into Ireland. So it's no surprise that we should see a great value placed on the cow, because until the time of the Vikings, the economy was really cow-based, it was cattle-based, and a measure of your wealth was the number of cows that you actually owned. Erica Rivertree says, your pups want to be included in today's episode. Yeah, well, certainly Coda does. Yeah, Ben McStuffon, hello from Colorado. Lovely to have you along, Ben. Tá fáilte rót an anocht. Just making sure I haven't missed. Muck is pig, says Katrina. Sounds like Mochus, a Celtic god, is identified with Mercury. Andrew says Ceridwen. A boar is a torque, which is also a type of jewellery. Yes, the torques, which can be seen in the National Museum. Any connection with the circular tusk, I wonder? So the more pigs, cows you had, the wealthier you were, and hence more powerful. Powerful, yeah, probably, essentially. It depends on what era you're talking about too, but powerful, wealthy, wealth and power go together, I suppose. Yes, you could probably make that connection. Desiree, love all the knowledge you share with us. Thank you. Well, I'm learning too, Desiree, and I'm not able to off the bat just recount all this detail, which is why it helps to be reading as well, you know. Rowan says the old name for Orkney was Islands of the Young Pigs or Boars, perhaps a tribal emblem. Interesting. Boars, Gaelic for. And Cynthia Fallon is also in Colorado. Hello from another Coloradon. Hello, Cynthia. Very good evening to you. In Welsh instances, cattle are a possession of the fairy folk dwelling under a lake and often come to land to feed. The cow of Fleas resembles the 7 kine of Manannán's wife. Their milk suffices the people of the entire land of promise or the men of the whole world. Doesn't mention the women, typical. While from the wool of her 7 sheep came all their clothing. Though the waves were, quote, the son of Lair's horses in a sea storm, unquote, Manannán rode them on his steed, Enbar. And of course, we've done a couple of episodes on Manannán, which he gave to Lu. And this horse was, quote, fleet as the naked cold wind of spring, unquote, while its rider was never killed off its back. In Elysium, a stud of steeds with grey speckled manes and another crimson brown were seen by Laig, and similar horses were given to carry mortals back to earth, whence, if they did not dismount, they could return safely to Elysium. Dare we mention it, or will it be mentioned? The story of Oisin in Tirnanog, and when he goes back to see the Fianna, he's on a horse, isn't he? And he's told not to step onto land, and he helps some gentlemen to move a rock, and the saddle breaks off the horse and he falls to earth. Sure, we won't spoil it in case you haven't seen that episode. Such a steed was brought by Gilla Decker to Fionn and his men, and miserable looking though it was, when placed among the Fianna's horses, it bit and tore them. Conan mounted it in order to ride it to death, but it would not move. And when 13 others vaulted on it, the Gilla fled, followed swiftly by the horse and its riders. Carrying them over land and sea, with another hero holding its tail, it brought them to the land of promise, whence Fionn ultimately rescued them. This forms the first part of a late artificial tale based upon a mythic foundation. Other mythical horses came from a water world, e.g. the steeds which Cuchulainn captured, one of these being the Grey of Macha out of the Grey Lake. Cuchulainn slipped behind it and wrestled with it all around Erin until it was mastered. And when it was wounded at his death, it went into the lake to be healed. The other was Dusangland of the Marvellous Valley, which was captured in similar fashion. Pat Judge says, astrological storytelling, energy shifts. And there's an image here, which I will briefly show to you. Hopefully you can all see that. Plate 16 is Cernunnos. This horned deity with torques on his horns is perhaps identical with the horned god showed in plate 25. He was doubtless a divinity of the underworld, etc., etc., from an altar found at Notre Dame in Paris. Possibly the rushing stream was personified as a steed, and the horse goddess Epona is occasionally connected with streams, while horses which emerge from lakes or rivers may be mythic forms of water divinities. That's very interesting, because one of the old Irish names, and again, that's another episode to come in the future, one of the old Irish names for the Milky Way is Arable Malorach Báine, which is the tail or the trail of the white mare. And remember that the Milky Way is the river of the sky, the river of the white cow, same idea, the white cow that was dismembered, Boin. And so the river on the ground is Owen Bo Finna, and the river of the sky is Balach Bo Finna. In more recent folk belief, the monstrous water horse of France and Scotland was capable of self-transformation and waylaid travellers, or, assuming human form, he made love to women, luring them to destruction. Did such demoniac horses already exist in the pagan period, or are they a legacy from Scandinavian belief, or are they earlier equine water divinities thus distorted in Christian times? This must remain uncertain, but at all events, they were amenable to the power of Christian saints, since Saint Fechin of Fore, and that is the great Fore, Fore Abbey in the county of Westmeath. It is in Westmeath, isn't it? Yes. He's away again. When one of his chariot horses died on a journey, compelling a water horse to take its place, afterward allowing it to return to the water. Akin to these is the Welsh Afanc, A-F-A-N-C, one of which was drawn by the oxen of Hugadern from a pond, while another was slain by Peredur or Percival, after he had obtained a jewel of invisibility, which hid him from the monster with its poisoned spear. Mortals as well as she were transformed into deer, and fairies possessed herds of those animals, while Coilche slew a wild three-antlered stag, quote, the grey one of three antlers, unquote, which had long eluded the hunters. Three-horned animals, bull or boar, are depicted on Gaulish monuments, and the third horn symbolizes divinity or divine strength, the word horn being often used as a synonym of might, especially divine power. On an altar discovered at Notre Dame in Paris, this is the image I showed you momentarily, or a moment ago, the god Cernunnos, the horned from Cernu, horn, has stag's horns, and other unnamed divinities also show traces of antlers. Possibly these gods were anthropomorphic forms of stag divinities like other Gaulish deities with bull's horns. And Katrina says, Koppel Vana, white horses equals crested waves. The white horses is right. And I have heard sailors, people who are fishermen, describe those, breaking waves as white horses. Serpents or dragons infesting lochs, sometimes generically called peist, P-E for the I-S-T, or B-E for the I-S-T, allegedly from the Latin bestia or beast, occur in Celtic and other mythologies and are reminiscent of earlier reptile forms dwelling in watery places and regarded as embodiments of water spirits or guardians of the waters. And in that regard, I think I've mentioned on at least a couple of occasions the great monster Mata, associated with the Boyne, the sluggish giant four-headed, 100-legged serpentine monster that licked up the River Boyne until it became a dry river valley and was later hacked to pieces on a mysterious stone at Newgrange called Lech Ben and tossed into the Boyne, parts of its body forming landscape features. And of course, that is a very ancient creation myth. We will deal with the Mata in one episode of its own. As has been seen, a dragon's shriek on May Eve, that's Bealtaine, made the land barren till Glud buried it, and that's the Welsh equivalent of Lugh, and its opponent alive after stupefying them with mead. They were placed in a kistvein at Dinas Emrys in Snowdon, and long afterward Merlin got rid of them when they hindered Vortigern's building operations. Here the dragons are embodiments of powers hostile to man and to fertility, but are conquered by gods, Clwyd and Merlin. The seal people, Rowan. Yeah, that's something I actually have to hold my hands up to not knowing very much, very, very, very little about, actually. So that is something I would have to come back about. Seal people, they also the ones called Selkies, are they? All right, folks, just catching up on some of the comments here on Facebook and just making sure I didn't miss anything on YouTube. I've long had a fascination with Manannán's crane bag, says Erica, and since my childhood have felt a personal affinity with herons. Very interesting. Cernunnos, Lord of the Wild Woods, the animals and the hunt, says the curious Celt. Ben McStuffon would love to know more about the Mata, and just want to double check that I have that down, as I'm pretty sure I have, but if I haven't, that would be my bad. Yeah, I've actually had a couple of people ask me about it. Actually, I haven't got it down. So there you go. Thanks for, I'll put your name on that. Mata and Lech Ben. So we're going to put Ben, same spelling, by the way, Lech Ben, B-E-N-N, or Lech Bend, B-E-N-D. Like stuff on. Okay. Secret of Rowan Inish. And also, what was the other one that was actually about those underwater selkies? That animated movie, an Irish movie. Does anybody know it? Or maybe it's been mentioned already, has it? Does anybody know the name of the, I can't remember just offhand. Song of the Sea, isn't it? The Song of the Sea. It's a beautiful, beautiful film. Yeah, Song of the Sea, 2014. Auron the Mara. So maybe that's one. Yes, Marcia Dan says, I've watched it over and over. Love it. Michael Mara is watching. Hello, Michael. Conas a thought too. I hope you're keeping well and safe amidst all that's going on. Another story of a peist occurs in Tónbo Freach. Freach was the most beautiful of Aaron's heroes, and his mother was the divine Bavind, or Bavin, his sister, the goddess Boan. Findabar, daughter of Ailill and Maeve, loved him, but before going to claim her, he was advised to seek from Boann treasure of the Sidhe, which she gave him in abundance, while he was made welcome at Ailill's dún. After staying there for some time, he desired Findabar, or Findabar. I'm sure there's a Gales of the World Lenite, as Katrina reminded me. There may be a lenited version of Findabar, only to be refused, whereupon he demanded her of Ailill, but would not give the bride price asked. Ailill and Maeve therefore plotted his death, fearing that if he took Findabar by force, the kings who sought her would attack them. While Freach was swimming in the river, and of course we will be telling the story of Toynbee Freach because it's been suggested as an episode, Ailill bade him bring a branch from a rowan tree growing on the bank, and swimming there he returned with it, Findabar meanwhile admiring the beauty of his body. Ailill sent him for more, but the monster guardian of the tree attacked him, and when he called for a sword, Findabar leaped into the water with it, Ailill throwing a 5-pronged spear at her. Freach caught it and hurled it back, and though the monster all the while was biting his side, with the sword he cut off its head and brought it to land. A bath of broth was made for him, and afterward he was laid on a bed. Then was heard lamentation, and 150 women of the Sidhe, clad in crimson with green headdresses, appeared, all of one age, shape, and loveliness, coming for Freach, the darling of the Sidhe. They bore him off, bringing him back on the morrow, recovered of his wound, and Findabar was now betrothed to Freach on his promising to assist in the raid of Cuilnge. And of course, that's one of they call that the Rem scale, is it? What are the two types of story? Rem scale is like a sort of a mini episode associated with the main episode. Thus, Freach, a demigod, overcame the Paist. In the ballad version from the Dean of Lismore's book, Maeve sent him for the berries because he scorned her love. The tree grew on an island in a loch, with the Paist coiled round its roots. Every month it bore sweetest fruit, and one berry satisfied hunger for a long time, while its juice prolonged life for a year and healed sickness. Freach killed the Paist, but died of his wounds. The tree was the tree of the gods, and resembles the quickened tree of Duvros, guarded by a one-eyed giant whom Diarmid slew. Pardon me. These stories recall the Greek myth of Heracles slaying the dragon guardian of the apples of the Hesperides, which has a certain parallel in Babylonia. Now, the dragon guardian of the Hesperides later became the constellation of Hydra in the night sky, if I'm not mistaken. A marvelous tree with jeweled fruit, Jewelled, was seen by Gilgamesh in a region on this side of the waters of death, and in the fields of the blessed, beyond these waters, he found a magic plant, the twigs of which renewed man's youth. He gathered it, but a serpent seized it and carried it off. The stories of Freach and Diarmid point to myths showing that gods were jealous of men sharing their divine food, and their tree of life was guarded against mortals, though perhaps semi-divine heroes might gain access to it and obtain its benefits for human beings. The guardian Paist recalls the dragons entwined round oaks in the grove described by Lucan. Such Celtic Paists were slain by Fionn, and in one poem, Fionn, or in another, his son Dara, was swallowed by the monster, but hacked his way out, liberating others besides himself. A little bit like an Irish Jonah, perhaps. They also defended duns or dunes in Celtic story. And in the sequel to the tale of Freach, he and Conall reached a dune where his stolen cattle were. And that's interesting because archaeologists maintain that medieval dunes or forts were built precisely to keep your cattle fenced in from raiding parties. A serpent sprang into Conall's belt, but was later released by him and, quote, neither did harm to the other, unquote. In Cuchulain's account of his journey to Ská, or I presume that's Ská, which we did as one of the early episodes, the Dún had 7 walls, each with an iron palisade, and having destroyed these, he reached a pit guarded by serpents, which he slew with his fists, as well as many toads, sharp and beaked beasts, and ugly dragon-like monsters. Then he took a cauldron and cows from the Dún, which must have been in the God's land across the sea, as in other tales where such thefts are related. A curious story from the Dunshanicus tells how the son of the Morrigan, had 3 hearts with, quote, shapes of serpents through them, unquote, or, quote, with the shape of serpents' heads, unquote. He was slain by MacCulloch, and if death had not befallen him, these serpents would have grown, serpents, not servants. These serpents would have grown and destroyed all other animals. The hearts were burned, and the ashes were cast into a stream, whereupon its rapids stayed, and all creatures in it died. Interesting. In another story, Cian was born with a caul, which increased with his growth, but Scahan ripped it open, and a worm sprang from it, which was thought to have the same span of life as Cian. And I presume this is Cian, father of Lugh Lawfada. A wood was put around it, and the creature was fed, but it grew to a vast size and swallowed men whole. Fire was set to the wood, when it fled to a cave and made a wilderness of all around. But at last Oisin killed it with Diarmaid's magic spear. Serpents with rams' heads are a frequent motif on Gaulish monuments, either separately or as the adjuncts of a god, but their meaning is unknown, and no myth regarding them has survived. Other parts of nature besides animals were regarded mythically. Mountains, the sea, rivers, wells, lakes, sun, moon, and earth had a personality of their own, and this conception survived when other ideas had arisen. Appeal was made to them, as the runes sung by Morrigan and Amergin show, that they were taken as sureties, or their power was invoked to do harm. And when Rua's champion took sureties of sea, wind, sun, and firmament against him, so that the sun's heat caused Aed to bathe, and the rising sea and a great wind drowned him. In another instance, a spell chanted over the sea by Dove, wife of Aena of the She, caused the drowning of his other wife, Father Ide, I presume that's Lennet as well, Aya, and her family. The personality of the sea is seen also in the story of Lingadan, and the echo heard at a cliff. Enraged at someone speaking to him without being asked, he turned to the cliff to be avenged upon the speaker when the crest of a wave dashed him against the rock. So too the sea was obedient to man, or perhaps to a god. Turba Throgmar, father of the Gubon Sair, used to hurl his axe from the hill of the axe in the full of the flood tide, forbidding the sea to come beyond the axe, an action akin to the Celtic ritual of fighting the waves. The voices of the waves had a warning, prophetic, or sympathetic sound to those who could hear them aright, as many instances show. As elsewhere, personalized parts of nature came to be regarded as animated by spirits, like man, and such spirits gradually became more or less detached from these and might be seen as divine beings appearing near them. Some of them became the greater gods, while others assumed a darker character, perhaps because they were associated with sinister aspects of nature or with the dead. The Celts knew all these, and some still linger on in folk belief. Fairy-like or semi-divine women, seen by streams or fountains, or in forests, or living in lakes or rivers, are survivals of spirits and goddesses of river, lake, or earth, and they abound in Celtic folk story as bonnes dames, dame blanche, fays, or the Irish bay find. Beings like mermaids existed in early Irish belief. When Rua's ships were stopped, he went over the side and saw the loveliest of the world's women, 3 of them detaining each boat. They carried him off, and he slept with each in turn, one becoming with child by him. They set out in a bronze boat to intercept him on his return journey, and when they failed, the mother killed his child and hurled the head after him, the others crying, "It is an awful crime." In another tale, Roth heard the mermaid's song and saw them, grown-up girls, the fairest of shape and make, with yellow hair and white skins above the waters, but than one of the hills was the hairy clawed bestial lower part which they had beneath. Their song lulled him to sleep when they flocked round him and tore him limb from limb. Other sea dwellers are the Luchorpawn, a kind of dwarf, 3 of whom were caught by Fergus and forced to comply with his wish and to tell him how to pass under lochs and seas, etc., etc., etc. Friends, please, if you wish, to remind me about other creatures, and we will briefly discuss that aren't covered in J.A. MacCulloch's chapter about such in Celtic mythology. By the way, that book is an old one, published again in the early 1900s, I think. Originally published in 1918, republished in 1996 by Academy Chicago Publishers. Please, if you have questions or suggestions for a very brief discussion about other creatures. I mean, there's loads. There's a whole episode on salmon to be done. And I know, perhaps, did we mention that as a separate... Hang on till I do a search. I have 8 pages of suggestions now. Animals in Irish myth. Yeah, we're doing that now, but I think the salmon needs to be discussed separately, doesn't it? We didn't discuss swans tonight, but we have done Ashlinga Ingaso, and we've done the Children of Lear as 2 or 3 separate episodes. And salmon in general, because there's a connection there to Ishnach, where there's a story about salmon in a well, which we will get back to. Okay. Sorry. Now, to get back to the comments, the goat. Yeah, that's an obscure one, Margaret. I'm not sure. I'm trying to think, do I know offhand any stories involving goats in Ireland? Not sure that I do. The puka, interesting, yes, of course. Haven't lived near the sea for 50 years, but I still miss hearing the waves at night, says Rowan. Kerem says, I love mermaids. Henry says, 1 hour done. 1 hour gone. Date night tonight. Yes, we will be vanishing fairly shortly. Waves of invasion, says Katrina. Song of the Sea does this well. Saoirse, Freedom, Ben, Mountain, Macha, the Owl Witch. Serpent Wisdom, says Rowan Grove. Yes, we are going to do, and I'm not sure if I've mentioned it or I took note of it. That would be in conjunction with Druids too. Druids and Serpents. Serpent Wisdom. Brilliant. Yeah, as I say, I have 8 pages of suggestions now. We're not going to run out for... Oh, by the way, just this evening, the Irish government has announced a further 3 weeks of this state of semi-lockdown. So at the moment, we're only allowed to go out for critically important things like food and medicines. We can walk for exercise or walk our dogs within 2 kilometers of our houses. But those restrictions, which are due to end this Sunday, Easter Sunday, are actually to proceed to continue for another 3 weeks until the 5th of May. So we're going to be here for a while longer. And sure, we might as well keep telling stories while we're here. Macy says, earlier in the session, the cow that provided milk for 300 men, parallel with loaves and fishes. Yeah, very interesting. Tree at many a stone circle also. What you have to be careful there with, Margaret, is the trees that were planted in recent centuries, such as those that grew out of Newgrange before the excavations. And everybody sees the pre-excavation pictures and goes, oh, wasn't it lovely the way it used to be wild and tree grown? Those trees were planted in recent times by the landowner. They weren't actually growing there all along. Okay, I'm not sure if there are any more pointers to... Come on, it is needed. You can beat this. Be sensible. Yeah, exactly. There were 25 people passed away in Ireland today due to COVID-19. We're not seeing a rapid rise in the number of cases or deaths, but we're still seeing people die, and it's awful. And so we have to continue doing this, and we're going to keep doing what we're told to do until the curve has been flattened and save as many lives as possible. Paul says FB showed 128 simultaneous views earlier. Good answer. Yeah, I did notice it went over 100 at one stage, which I think is the most we've had in any episodes. It's a great delight to have you all along, and it's been greatly enjoyable. Is Robin connected to Macha? No, more like the crow, I think, or the hooded crow. But we'll get there. The salmon of wisdom feeding on hazelnuts. Yes, exactly, Andrew. And that kind of deserves an episode of its own, but we are doing one on sacred wells, which will naturally cross over. So depending on how much of that we've done in the sacred wells, we may get back to the salmon as well. Maeve Fiona Callahan says, yes, too many animals for 1 hour. I'm inclined to agree. And I think we should come back and do animals in Irish myth part 2. And we need to do more about cows and bulls. We need to do the black pig, for instance, although that may take its own episode. Was there anything else that we could throw into a second episode that hasn't? The salmon we will deal separately altogether. The heron or the crane, absolutely. We're trying to think offhand. Horses. Pigs, black pig and pigs. Yes, okay. Too many animals is right. Ravens. Yeah, we'll discuss ravens or crows. Absolutely. Thank you, Aaron, for that suggestion. Way of the white cow. Wolves. Yeah. Do you know what? There's very little. Is there something I'll have to come back to? Wolves. We'll definitely, yes. We'll come back to wolves. Paratrek. Yeah, Canis lupus. Okay, yeah, we'll come back to that. I'm going to put that in there in the list. Rabbits. Hares, more like. Yeah, we'll put that in there. That episode will require me to do a bit of research, by the way. So there you are. The Bog of Frogs, says McHugh-J. The Curious Celt. Will the evolution of the Fae in Ireland episode be coming up soon, Anthony? Possibly with input from Morgan. Actually, that's one of the things I was thinking, was that if we're going to do that episode, I will absolutely need the input of Morgan. I'm not a specialist on the fairies or on the Fae, and I would have to do research. So I might invite Morgan to help contribute towards that one. My great-grandfather, says Helene McGreevy, swore he saw a mermaid coming from Ireland to the USA. Wow. Would love to see these histories, myths, and legends on screen. It would make it so much easier for me to visualize and follow. Yeah. And imagery and video footage, etc., etc. Okay, there you go, folks. Thanks a million for joining us tonight. It's been wonderful. A lovely gathering of Carja friends, or Tua, the tribe, our Fud on Down around the world. Episode 31 tomorrow. There are lots and lots of suggestions for episodes. Don't be afraid to keep them coming in. Don't be afraid to invite your friends along. We generally live stream at 8 p.m. Irish time. Tonight, on Friday nights, we do an hour earlier than normal, which is 7 p.m. Please feel free to join us at the regular time tomorrow. That's 3 p.m. New York time. I think that's 1 p.m. or is it 12 noon Seattle? Seattle 7 or Pat Rowan or Erica or one of the sorry, not Erica, Aaron, one of the West Coasters. Are you 7 or 8 hours behind Ireland? Please forgive me for not knowing that immediately. Oh, actually, I can tell you now. I can read out the list. Apologies for that. It must be I'm getting hungry. Yeah, so it's 12 noon Seattle. 12 noon in California is the regular time. So please do join us tomorrow. When you're here, tell us where you're watching from. If you're on YouTube and you're using a handle, tell us your real name and tell us where you're watching from. We'll all say hello to you. And don't forget that the videos are all available on the Mythical Ireland blog. That's mythicalireland.com. And you'll see the link for the blog there. And also on the YouTube channel, youtube.com/Mythical Ireland. And if you're on Facebook, of course, most of you are watching on Facebook. It's facebook.com/Mythical Ireland. In the meantime, thank you all for watching. Ichawa, one and all. Slán go fóil. Goodbye for now. And sláinte. Good health to each and every one of you. We'll see you again tomorrow night. I'm Anthony Murphy. This has been Live Irish Myths, episode 30. Imagine, we've been doing this for almost a month. It's been great. Lovely to have you along. See you all tomorrow. And the same to you all, my good folks on YouTube. How many of you are watching right now? 18. And I think it was higher than that at peak. Slán go fóil. August Bannacht, and we'll see you tomorrow night. All the very best.